Hello, welcome to Class 7 of the Identification and Assessment Gifted Endorsement Program. Hope that you all had an enjoyable holiday and ready to get back to work. First, we will look at what is first look versus second look. We've been talking about first look for the entire first 6 classes. And so just to remind you, first look refers to students who have not been previously tested and or who don't have current test data. That means data that's 2 years or less. These students are screened through automatic teacher and parent referrals. Second look is when students who've been previously tested and found to be ineligible for gifted services, but they still have some current data that we can use. The student's data is then reviewed by the eligibility team to determine if they qualify for a different assessment that, if given and is favorable, will help them to qualify for eligible gifted services. So again, just to recap, first look instruments and timeline. So we have screening and then we have referral. The parents were able to screen from August until September of last fall. Automatic referral data was collected and disseminated from August to October last fall, and TAP happened in October of 2018. And so after proper screening and running filters to ensure that students were still within that timeline, we began the referral process. And so points of contact were able to make their test and rosters. The Torrance test of creative thinking was administered in December. Now we are about to embark into the second phase of the testing window. So MAP testing window is January 7th through January 24th, and then COGAT will begin on January 24th and extend through February 8th. So after the data is collected back from the various scoring sources, we will get them back in March, and so eligibility teams will be able to meet in March and April to discuss students who were referred and tested. Okay, so let's take a look at second looks. So with second looks, first you review test data of students tested in the previous year. You look to identify students for which another assessment or assessments might support a positive identification. So if you find that to happen, then you create a new testing roster. But it's important to note that only appropriate assessments within the second look testing window come from in-house assessments. So that could be the DRS, the CAMI, the Naglieri, MAP, products of performances, and cumulative averages in grades 8 through 11. So once data is collected, it's processed, the eligibility team meets, just like in first look, and parents are notified of the results. The second look timeline is not as expansive as first look because screening usually happens in August, testing in September, and then eligibility determination is in October. So it's a very short turnaround because most of the data has already been collected. So during first look, COGAT was used for mental ability, but during second look, we're able to offer the Naglieri. So any gifted endorsed teacher with a supplemental training from the Office of Gifted and Talented Education can administer the Naglieri. So the Naglieri is the nonverbal ability test, and it's in its third edition, and so hence the abbreviation NNAT3. It's a nonverbal measure of general ability for students in grades kindergarten through 12th, but you know that we use it for up to grade 11. I've included a link for you to view the short training video that we were given. It kind of explains what the Naglieri is and how it goes and how to print the reports. Most of these are set up into smaller segments, so usually less than a minute. So if you have a free 20 minutes, please sign up through this guest book link and take the time to get more familiar with the Naglieri. Continuing to take a look at second looks, especially in the category for mental ability, now that we know what the Naglieri is, let's see who qualifies to get it. So students in grades kindergarten through 11 who are referred and qualified for a second look will be given the Naglieri, and we are on the third edition. They will be given this if they meet some of the following criteria. One, student was tested during the previous screening and referral process and has been referred for a second look. The student didn't achieve a 96th percentile on any component of the COGAT and the score is less than 2 years old. Student has qualifying data in 2 of the 4 areas and the use of the Naglieri could be a determining factor in the eligibility for the student. Or the student scored greater than or equal to 80th percentile on the nonverbal part of the COGAT, or the student scored 70 percentile or greater on the nonverbal component of the COGAT with a verbal component of less than 50 percentile, or English is not the student's primary or first language, or the student is receiving free or reduced lunch. Additionally, students in grades K through 11 who qualify for a second look will be referred for psychological testing if appropriate after referring according to the following guidelines. So 1, student was tested during the previous and qualified for a second look. The student did not achieve 96th percentile on any component and the score is less than 2 years old. The student has 2 achievement scores at 90th percentile or 1 on achievement at 94th percentile and a motivation score at the 90th percentile. And the student has a score of 93rd percentile or better on 2 components of the COGAT or a composite of 93 percentile or better on the COGAT. This next section is very technical and may seem overwhelming. But remember, one of the benefits of having an eligibility team is that you're not making decisions in isolation, and there's always the resource manual and data to back up the information that you need to make decisions. So APS has an individual psychological process policy. The eligibility team for gifted services is responsible for recommending a student for an individual psych eval by APS school psychologists. A student is automatically eligible for an individual evaluation if the following criteria are met on achievement and mental ability. So for achievement, the student has 2 nationally normed achievement scores of 90 percentile or above in total reading or reading comprehension and total math, or the student has a nationally normed achievement score equal to or greater than 94 percentile in total reading or reading comprehension or total math and has a score of 90th percentile or greater on a motivation rating scale. Similarly, for mental ability, the student has a composite score greater than 93 percentile on a nationally normed mental ability test, or the student has 2 component scores of 93 percentile on a nationally normed mental ability test. If a student meets the above criteria, then the eligibility team should complete the request for individual testing for possible gifted placement form. They should secure vision and hearing information from the school nurse, and they should submit the following forms: request for individual testing for possible gifted placement, parental consent form, gifted eligibility report. Likewise, they must log a request for individual testing on the testing roster. The gifted support teacher at the OGATE office will review and submit the forms to the coordinator of gifted education. The coordinator of gifted education will then review and determine approval. If approved, the documents will then be forwarded to the coordinator of psychological services. If that person approves it, then they will assign testing to the appropriate school psychologist. And the school psychologist will then schedule and administer the individual evaluation, submit testing results to the coordinator of gifted and talented education. Then the coordinator will provide a copy of test results to gifted and talented support teacher who will provide the gifted eligibility team with the results. If denied by either or both coordinators, the eligibility team chair and gifted teacher will be notified. If a student does not meet the above criterion, the eligibility team can submit a request. They can complete a conference report form, clearly stating the reasons why individual testing is believed to be appropriate, as well as complete the request for individual testing for possible gifted placement form. They could go ahead and secure the vision and hearing information. They could submit the forms, the conference report, request for individual testing for possible gifted placement, the parental consent form, and the gifted eligibility report. They still will need to log the request for individual testing and provide all of these documents to the coordinator of gifted and talented education. Next in the process, the coordinator of gifted and talented education will review it. Then, if approved, the documents will be forwarded to the coordinator of psychological services. If approved, the coordinator of psychological services will assign testing to the appropriate school psychologist. And lastly, the school psychologist will then schedule and administer the individual evaluation, submit the testing results to the school's gifted teacher, and the local school gifted teacher will submit a copy of the test results to the gifted and talented support teacher. Okay, we've come to the end. The purpose of today's class, or this week's class rather, was to review first look and introduce second look. So if you would please glance back through the PowerPoint a second time, just to make sure you have a clearer understanding. If you'll review the 2018-2019 Gifted Resource Manual, pages 17 through 23. If you'll complete the exit ticket. And if you'll please check with your school's testing coordinator or gifted point of contact to see how you can volunteer and help with MAP and COGAT testing. Those would be valuable experiences to help you better understand this. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact your instructor. Thank you and have a great week.